Warning: viewer discretion is advised, as images or stories may be disturbing. The Blackest Fairy, Episode 2. Once upon a time, on a small farm outside of the main village of Scotland, lived a farmer and his children, his two daughters, Emily and Rebecca, and his newest son, Jed. They all lived a very poor life, but both daughters were on the verge of marriage with much more wealthier communities. But that still didn't help, because him and his son would live alone in the dark. They lived within a freezing shack aboard a hill. The back of the house faced the deepest woods, where all sorts of beings from imagination lurked in peace. For many years, the farmer managed to keep his crops up and cattle fit. But this year was the worst of decades, since the crop had withered and died when little saplings, and the cattle had perished from malnutrition. It was nearing harvest time, and it would be too late to regrow food and refurnish the livestock population. The farmer's doubts were at their highest. The colder months had brought frustration and ache to his body. Now he sat at the weather-beaten table, thinking that neither him nor his son would survive the harsh months ahead. A knock at the door alerted the old man, and when he opened the door, a small-footed house brownie stood in rags upon his doorstep. The little creature bowed his head, hairy frown upon his grimy face, and spoke. "Me name's Burdock. May I come inside? A little chill is nipping me skin." The old farmer allowed Burdock to enter his home. The brownie waddled on thick, muddy feet to the table, where he hopped up on the chair and placed his floppy hat on the table's surface. This wasn't a normal brownie, not one he had heard of, since the ones he had known were well kept and cleaner than the wealthiest man. Burdock was filthy, covered in thin strips of clothing, obviously stolen. His skin, although covered in a mass of black hair, was still reeking with clumps of dirt. The farmer grabbed them both solid cups and a bottle still holding little but enough ale to service them both. Once the ale was poured, Burdock took his cup and gulped down half the serving down his rotting gullet. The farmer didn't touch his drink. He probably would toss it when the brownie left his dwelling, so he grabbed the cup's handle instead to keep in place. "What seems to be the issue, my friend?" Burdock swallowed the last of his beverage and placed the cup on the table. He exhaled, famished, and stated, "I could see that you were in poverty from me house under your hill. I gazed upon your empty fields and your decaying cattle graves, and I decided to help you." The farmer couldn't tell if the creature was tricking him or being sincere. The mask of black fur hid Burdock's expression well. Brownies weren't the most powerful of creatures, only taking part of human life to clean and tidy up their masters' homes. But they were supposed to be the nicest beings on the face of the earth. "How could you help me keep myself and me son alive for the winter, fairy? I don't think you have enough power in those claws to clean a horse stable." Burdock didn't take a liking to that remark. He pounded the table with his grubby hands and demanded an apology. The brownie crawled up on the table, pointed a curled talon at the farmer, who displeased him. "I will see to it. By tomorrow's eve, you'll have a sty full of piggies and cows. The next day you'll be carrying potato sacks to your knees. I can get you these in 2 days, but I'll need 2 things from you in return." "What do you ask?" "I demand your daughters, Rebecca's hand in marriage and Emily's hand in maid cleaning," the brownie barked. This request made the farmer laugh, which made the brownie even angrier. "You really think me daughters are going to be your maidens, laddie? A little sprouts you are coming into my house and demanding my daughters to serve you hand and foot." The farmer laughed, which finally ushered the creature off his table and toward the door. The farmer knew that brownies took no interest in money or food, but this was ridiculous beyond measures. Before leaving, the brownie turned around and growled, "I'll be waiting for Black Donald to drag you to hell!" Burdock slammed the door behind him. The farmer tossed his ale out the window and went to bed for another chilling night of sleep. To the farmer's astonishment, Burdock had delivered on his own accord. The fields were flourishing with plants, and he heard the faint chatter of animals in the barn close to him. The farmer was surprised that even though he couldn't partake of his end of the brownie's bargain, Burdock still accomplished to bring himself to help the farmer through the winter. He took a large breath of air and went into the kitchen to make some breakfast. But when he entered, there was something waiting for him on the table. Something large, covered in a black sheet. The farmer smelled something wafting from the giant bag. Something sticky. Something fresh and almost sweet. The cloth stunk of the flavor of sugar that made one sick. He walked to the table and opened the bag up. He jumped backwards, horrified by the gift the brownie had left him. From the deepest point was a brim of bloody, dismembered human parts, all fused together in a heaving mass. In the center was 3 heads. All of them were his children. The end. I want to thank you for watching this next episode of Dark Leaflets. I think it did incredibly well. Now, I hope you stick around, demolish that like button, and make that subscribe button say uncle. Okay? I want you to do this. Please, just do this. Now that I've gotten that off my chest, this has been the second episode of Dark Leaflets. See you next Saturday.